right, welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Christopher Cabald, and I'm the mayor of the city of West Sacramento in California, which is near Sacramento, just to the west. I also, because we're small, so not everyone knows where we are. I'm also the chairman of the Jobs, Education, and Workforce Committee for the United States Conference of Mayors, which has been leading a lot of national work in this sector of college and career pathways and college and career readiness. And so I'm glad to be your moderator today on behalf of the Senate CTE Caucus, which is the host of this briefing, along with the Alliance for Excellent Education, with the generous support of the James Irvine Foundation, which has been investing in work around linked learning and college and career pathways in California in particular, but then also the translation of that work into policy and to scale. Also want to acknowledge and thank all the staffers that have worked so hard to put this afternoon together. Krishma Merton from Senator Kane's office, Brian Moulton from Senator Baldwin's office, Alan Ernst from Senator Portman's office, Nancy Martinez from Senator Young's office, and Monica Allman with the Alliance for Excellent Education, which is the organizer of today's event. We're here today because we want to hear about some stories of innovation in the world of career technical education. The CTE is resurgent, depending on your temporal point of view in this country, or it is a brand new movement. And proceeding around the country in communities just like mine, in the absence of a 21st century Perkins framework, places around the country are inventing and reinventing themselves. So it's an issue you wouldn't normally have heard a mayor talking about a generation ago. But in my own city, we have roughly 55,000 people. We have about 48,000 jobs. So when you subtract out the little children and the folks who are retired and don't want to work anymore, we have enough jobs for every man, woman, teenager, and half of the dogs in the city. And yet, during the recession, we had a 19.5 unemployment rate, and even today we have a 7% unemployment rate. So simply jobs alone is not enough in the absence of the right mix of skills. And so we see it in our local communities around the nation, the desperate need to be able to attack the skills gap in a way that really matters at the community level. We can't deal with neighborhood inequality without dealing with not just the overall quality of education, but the relationship of college and career readiness for our citizens and for our residents, and for the companies that we're trying to recruit, expand, and retain. So this is a key priority for America's mayors, as well as America's companies, and we're going to hear about the broadening coalition of folks that are dedicated to doing this work and doing this work at scale and quality. So we want to hear about innovative work that's happening, much of it anchored in California, but this is just one lens on a national movement that is occurring in communities in virtually every state of the nation. The work that we're going to be describing today goes under the rubric and the name of linked learning. Linked learning is a moniker that came out of California and now exists in Michigan and Texas and many other states around the country that sought to get beyond the notion that our choices in the world were everyone go to college or let's return to the good old days of 1950 when voc ed magically served everyone. That those were the two waves that we kept dealing with as policymakers in our communities, and we would go swing from one extreme to the other. And the notion of linked learning was those are not only not in conflict, but for us to achieve engagement by students in high quality academics, it has to be brought to life by real world experiences. Not just real world examples, not just a train leaves Chicago at 8 a.m. and another train leaves LA. Yes, that is a real world example of math, but it does not enliven the math in the way that an actual application with real stakes and real adults involved can really bring to the table. And second, that our traditional sense of vocational education wasn't deep enough because it didn't connect to the academic, not just the academic knowledge, but the academic skills and competencies that were necessary to adapt that career education over time and to be able to move and weave and bob in career sectors to build real, meaningful, life-sustaining, family-sustaining careers. And so that the connection between the two was critical. So linked learning seeks to bring together strong college preparatory academics with strong career technical education, a sequence of at least 3 high-quality CTE courses with work-based learning. So it's not simply enough of doing it in the classroom, but it is also insistent that every student be connected to that integration of academic and career technical education in the real world through paid internships, through the full continuum of work-based learning experiences that exist before the internship, but where they are applying their knowledge and they're seeing the relevance of it in the real world, and testing and learning the career skills that you cannot teach in the classroom. that only the weird ambiguities and the office politics and that annoying coworker that you can't get rid of and the problem that seems to have no solution in the office, often those problems don't exist and can't be modeled properly in the classroom. You only get them in the real world with real adults facing real problems with real stakes. And so work-based learning is the essential third component of linked learning. And the fourth is wraparound supports, counseling, cohorting, and other services that make it possible for all of that to come together in a way that, for all students, in a way that brings equity to the table in a powerful way. So that's the basic concept of linked learning. And it seems obvious to many people today, but it wasn't, and still in many of our policies it hasn't been. Our finance policies, our assessment policies, our accountability policies have been driven in large ways that have forced us to treat those two as separate tracks. Even when we would say otherwise. And so it has been a constant set of work to change our policy framework, our budgeting frameworks and policies, but then to deliver on the ground in schools, but importantly outside of schools as well, what's essential in order for that promise of college and career readiness for all to be achievable. And college and career readiness, where the young person has the choice about what they choose to do when they're done with high school, whether to go to college and pursue a bachelor's degree, an associate degree, a certificate, an apprenticeship, or not. That is up to them at that point at the end of high school and not up to a counselor or someone else in the 7th grade advising them which track to join. So we're hopeful that that some of the examples and the lessons and the failures and the successes that we've had in this work will help advance your conversation and your work. I know many of you are involved in the CTE Excellence and Equity Act, which brings to life many of these principles in policy, and we think there are some useful lessons, but we really want to encourage and invite questions, pushback. If you have tomatoes to throw, please throw them at me. I will redirect them appropriately to the panel. But to really engage this is not finished work in our world, and I'm sure it's not in yours either, but to really try to engage and build on what we can learn together through this conversation. We know that it does work throughout the country. The rigorous studies that have been done about linked learning in school districts at the district scale have shown 8.5% increases in graduation rates for students who entered high school with low prior academic achievement. That's a significant moving of the dial among a population of students that are persistently the hardest to reach. For African American students, the significant undermatch problem that we face even in California, 12.4% more African American students in California who've gone through linked learning choose a 4-year university option that's more appropriate for their level of preparation as opposed to undermatching to a lower level of institution than they are qualified for. And students who go directly into the workforce from high school report that they have higher quality jobs as measured by things like, do you have health insurance at the job that you got after 12th grade? Do you have paid time off? Linked learning students consistently report that they do. So we know that it works in a variety of contexts and in a variety of ways, and we're going to plumb a little bit of that today. So we're really excited to have with us a panel that crosses the spectrum of this work to help us explore some of these topics a bit more. We're going to start with a couple of two of our alumni of linked learning. We wanted to bring a couple students, but it's a school day. So we brought some alumni that can give us this kind of the soup to nuts conversation about this work, give us some insight about what we're really talking about in the school site and at the school level. I thought first I'd ask Jose to tell us a little bit about your own journey, your experience getting to your linked learning site in San Diego, what that was like and what it has meant.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying I'm humbled to be here today sharing my story with you. The linked learning high school experience really helped me pursue my career dream in construction engineering. Not only did it prepare me for college, but it also prepared me for the workforce. So how did linked learning help me, a first generation college student, overcome my challenges? It did it in 2 points that I want to talk about. One, it kept me engaged in the curriculum like it was talked about, because I saw the application, a concept that we learned in the class. Then you go to your workshop classes, your engineering classes, and you apply that concept. Simple things as the triangle needs to be 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. And then you go into the engineering courses in the computer, and then you see that. And in addition, through the job walks, through the field trips and internships, you get to apply those concepts in the field. So it all works around. And that was one of the things that really kept me engaged in the curriculum at Construction Tech Academy. The second point I want to make is that Link Learning connected me to the local universities and through the field trips, through the events, to the professionals in the industry. Through that, I was able to obtain a full tuition scholarship to San Diego State to pursue a construction engineering degree. Once I graduated and went to San Diego State, I gained the soft and technical skills at Construction Tech Academy through all the rigorous training, all the field trips, and all the interactions with the professionals, and I was able to obtain a scholarship. I was able to obtain an internship, and by the time I graduated San Diego State, I'd completed 3 internships, and I was able to get a full-time job as soon as I graduated. So that's what it did for me. As far as going back to Kearney Complex, just to give you a little bit of background on what that is, I graduated back in 2009, so way back when. The school was broken down into 4 small schools. There was 4 different focuses: science, digital media and design, construction engineering, and business. So if you wanted to go from one school to the next because you were more interested, or if you wanted to take a class, that was an option. For me, I was really motivated and passionate about construction because my dad has a background in it, so I chose Construction Tech Academy, and that's what it did for me. So if Link Learning can do this for me, imagine what it could do for other students.
All right, thanks, Jose. So, and part of what you said about the integration, the 3, 4, 5, and then the application in the math, taking that further in the math class, and understand, okay, what does that 3, 4, 5 really mean in terms of the concepts, and then applying it in the real world, I think really is an essential point because we've had college and career existing in schools for a long time, but largely side by side, or you would, and the teachers would never mix. And in fact, if you pried a little bit, they would kind of poo-poo each other. Oh no, that's the career people over there, or that's the Ivory Tower history people over there. And it's the integration that really has been important in bringing that work to life and then connecting it to the possibilities of career. This is an important part of what's happening in the NAF Academy, so I want to come back to you in a second, Bill. But sorry, maybe from leaving construction a little bit and going up the highway a bit north, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your experience at Health Professions High School in Sacramento.
Hello, everybody. So, as you said, I did attend Health Professions High School in Sacramento. I graduated not that far back in 2011. My experience there was, honestly, it's still pretty miraculous to me. The school was, I was lucky enough to have the school literally be built across the street from the house. So I was literally a hop, skip, and a jump, and that made the decision to attend there all the more easier. As far as my actual involvement on the campus and in the work, honestly, it has prepared me. It prepared me more than I would ever have realized for post-secondary and for my and building my career path for myself. What it did overall was give me time to find my niche. And that's very important when you're trying to make these big life decisions in college and you're going into college and you're like, so do I really want to be a nurse or do I really want to be a teacher? Like, where am I going to go with this? And I was blessed with the opportunity through integrated unit projects, which are our work-based learning projects at Health Professions that like they said in the name, integrated every aspect of what we were learning. So we did learn our health component, but we were able to tie that into our English courses. So we were writing literature and doing research. We were actually learning how to apply that algebra that nobody really knows how to use anywhere else. We were mixing it in with our biology courses, of course, and then we were even learning how the history worked into that. So having that full, I refer to it as a more holistic scope, definitely helped me later on down the line when I was trying to find where my passions lied. Initially, it was clinical. I was introduced to the clinical side of like nursing and things like that by through job shadowing. there were plenty of opportunities to do so. We had guest speakers come to the school quite often. We participated in a program called, well, I participated in a program called Saturday Scrubs, which was offered through the UC Davis Medical School in conjunction with my school. And we got to see, well, actually use human cadavers. We actually got to participate in courses that were taught by the medical students themselves. And of course, the professors did chime in every now and then. So I was able to find like my place. And when it came time for post-secondary, I felt like I was extremely prepared. One of the things that health profession stressed was the profession. So from day one, we knew from just the basics of how to dress and like your mini elevator pitch and your resume. But by the time I actually left high school, not only did I have my diploma and all of these wonderful experiences and internships and work-based learning and things of that under my belt, but I also was prepared to speak, to do public speaking. I was very self-aware, so I had no problem being able to stand up in front of a room full of professionals and give a presentation. I felt very competent in my work, and I left with not just a portfolio, but a field portfolio. I actually had evidence of my work. I had things to show employers after straight out of high school that a lot of people don't even necessarily get into like their first sophomore year of college when they're trying to get their first big internship. By the time I actually got to college, I had already worked at the California State Senate under the President Pro Tem's office. So like my trajectory, like health professions had everything to do with my trajectory. As far as now, I'm a senior community health education major at Howard University. I was able to find my passions, just like I said, over at health professions, where education is something that I've always been very passionate about. I love to learn, and I love to help other people learn. But also the health component, I love everything about it. All the intricacies. I love all the gross stuff. So I watch all the videos on Facebook as they come up, things like that. And I was able to blend those two loves together and find my place. And I'm actually a change agent. I can actually give back to my community. I'm actually producing good work for the communities in which I serve. And it all started from my initial contact over at Health Professions High School.
Yeah, and one of the questions I know I get asked about this work in my own city is, well, isn't 7th or 8th or 9th grade, isn't that too early to be picking your whole life, and is that really what we should be encouraging young people to do? But I think your story, Soraya, is a good example of, so you started this because you thought being a nurse was the thing that you wanted to do, and it was going through these experiences and seeing nurses in the real world and getting exposed to informatics and to other disciplines within the health sector that you realize, okay, maybe nursing isn't the thing I want to do, but these other elements are. And in the prior world, you would have wanted to have been a nurse all the way to the time you would apply for college. You would apply for a nursing slot in a heavily competitive, impacted program. You would take that slot away from someone else, you would get it, and then after a year or two, you would decide, this isn't really for me, and you would have wasted a huge amount of time and resources. So would the public in an important way. And so this an opportunity for focused exploration while still having a coherence around your program of study and application in the real world, I think is an important nuance that a lot of folks looking at this at the first time say, well, it's not right. We don't want to have a workforce development program that starts in junior high school. But in some sense, it's really about exploration as much as it is about a choice. Sure.
Okay, so I also wanted to add, as you had said, I'd be competing for a spot in everything that I did after high school. One of the things that my school was very good at was fostering an environment where we did not feel like we were competing with one another. So when it came time for internships and things like that, we felt like we were all competent, and it was just it was good fellowship. It was the best man got it. Versus my experiences as far as friends who did not go to that sort of school and they were looking for internships championships and things like that. It was like, I'm always competing. I have to do better than this person. I have to do better than that person. And I feel like they kind of got lost in actually just trying to make themselves look good and not necessarily able to, like, they didn't have the level of competency that I felt that I had coming straight out of high school and things like that, and just trying to go into career. They were just kind of like, oh, well, I got this, so does it match up? Is it going to work? And I actually had a field I could pick. I know this is going to work. I know how to pitch it to you. Go ahead and give me the job.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. So the linked learning is really an umbrella for lots and lots of different models and programs. So if you're looking for where is the linked learning funded program in each Department of Education, it doesn't exist because it is an umbrella that encompasses lots and lots of different models and approaches, which go by their own names and have their own budget line items or foundation supports or what have you, but all of which have these four basic components of strong college preparatory academics, strong career technical education, plus work-based learning and student supports. And to that end, Bill, I'm hoping, as the vice president for NAF that's been building this work, you could tell us a little bit about what that means. There's career technical education of some form in many, at least in our state or in the cities that the mayors of the U.S. represent, in virtually all of our schools. And yet, what makes this different from career technical education standing alone?
Yeah, really appreciate that question, and I too am honored. I am so happy for you that you get a chance to hear from these great ambassadors of the experience that they've had, and I think you're hearing from their themes, already. It's the key ingredients that makes all of this really work. So maybe I'll try to build on that, and certainly in my organization, NAF. Formerly known as the National Academy Foundation. We've been at this work for 35 years, and we're founded at the root of it in public-private partnerships. And as you're hearing both Soraya and Jose speak, their journey involved partners from a wide range of stakeholders, but critical to that. And I'm excited that Sarah's here as well from JP Morgan Chase. You're going to hear the critical role that an employer community plays in shaping these kinds of experiences. But for us, around our academy design, it really centers around kind of four main areas, main ingredients. You're hearing the academy structure, so really reshaping the high school experience, right? It's not we take English, math, science, social studies over here in this wing, and then, wait, let's go do something cool, down the hall for this one interesting experience, and then go back to the grind. So what you're hearing through linked learning approach, through pathways approach, through the career academy approach, it is about the and, all right? So we're talking about college and career ready, and I'll do a shameless plug, right? And is 3 letters, A&D, NAF, and AF. Okay, so we like to say we are the and in the college and career readiness because it is about defining that structure, defining those programs of study, and we do that in partnership with industry. All right, so the projects that students are working on, the problems that they're wrestling with in their educational experience is rooted in the real relevant business challenges that exist right now. So that brings a sense of relevancy and connectivity that you don't traditionally find. So we offer curriculum pathways in finance and in IT and hospitality and tourism and engineering that are all focused on that, and we do that work with leading partners. And then, as we've been discussing, work-based learning. So how do we tie that learning through a set, and for us, it starts in 9th grade, awareness. How do we begin to help young people understand the kinds of career opportunities that are even possible out there? So getting folks out in terms of being guest, having guest speakers come into the classroom, work site tours, and things like that. And so what makes that work-based learning really come alive is a set of partners. But we've got to be able to make that a little bit lighter lift for employers. So we've been hard at work around the kind of structures and designs. We call them advisory boards. So every academy in our network is supported by a group of corporate and community partners that provides the support necessary for that kind of work-based learning. So this is happening at scale. And I wanted to share that message. It's not happening in isolation. Our network is pretty large. We're in 36 states. We've got close to 700 academies in 461 schools, 172 school districts. We're serving just under 100,000 students. And then within the linked learning umbrella in California, we've got 144 academies and 77 schools serving over 20,000 students. So there are lots of young people that are benefiting from this experience. But we all know, right, that's not enough. We're far from meeting the opportunity challenge that's necessary. So.
Well, and those of us who've seen some of this work happen in the past, in our own schools even, often for, targeted for at-risk kids or for the gifted, right? One end or the other. We're familiar with, I call this the Michelle Pfeiffer, Viola Davis phenomenon, where there's a one superstar teacher who, against the odds, is going to create a green technology academy, and she's fighting against the school district and the school board and the principal, and the funding formulas don't reward that, and then she's got to she wants to get internships, she wants to do exactly what you said, and she knows she has a cousin that works at Intel, and so she thinks she can get 3 internships there. Now if she can only get another 54 for the rest of her kids, she'll be fine. So she works a little bit harder, she can make this happen, and by the end of the movie, she's found a love interest, but the kids still don't have the internships. This has been the struggle of this work for so long. It's like it works, but how do you scale it if it all depends on a superhuman teacher putting together the world of work, integrating the curriculum, applying it, counseling, all of this together, linking it to the college? How is that possible?
Yeah.
Part of what we're seeing, and I'm hoping Cindy and Sarah will help us build this out a little bit, is that drawing the work of it outside of the classroom and away from the teacher to provide the support and the systems to do this institutionally, rather than just with a single teacher trying to beat the odds.
That's such an important point. Maybe I'll just make one last point, because I know you want to move, but I think being really intentional about that, and we are with our network around, we can't just hope that happens, right? So you have to be really intentional so when we help local communities start academies, we are intentional about the design team, right? We have to make sure that we've got district leadership, that we've got the corporate community engaged, that we've got inside the school building, that we've got. It's not just on the career technical education, CTE, the vocational teachers back, but it is a cross-section: English, math, science, social studies, all together, blended around those projects. It's so important.
All right, well, let me get Cindy and Sarah then, because I also want to invite questions as ASAP. So Cindy, you're at the district level. You are in you're in a very rural district, one of the most challenged regions even of California, much less the country, trying to do something that many larger places and richer places have never been able to pull off. Tell us a little bit about why you got into this as a district, and what are some of the key strategies and lessons at the district level that you've been learning.
So, going back 10 years, I'm from Porterville, California, which is in the Central Valley of California. Very rural area, largest industry sector. Oh, turn that on. There you go. Industry sector is agriculture, surrounded by orange trees and citrus groves, not skyscrapers, not NASA next door. An hour and a half away is our closest four-year university. But we wanted to dive into this because going back, before Link Learning came into the picture, we saw that we had a VOC educational program that was very strong, that never went away despite the financial disparity in education. We kept that going because our community knew that we needed skill-based hands and trades to continue to do the workforce needs in our community. But we also had a strong college prep. Why couldn't we blend the two? We no longer wanted students to have to choose one path or the other when they weren't even exposed to the possibilities that were in front of them. So exposing students early, or as early as kindergarten, is where graduation starts. And so that was why we jumped into the Link Learning effort. It was a perfect fit for what we needed in Porterville. We have 80% free and reduced lunch school population. It's a low socioeconomic area, very underserved, very underprivileged, 75% are Hispanic. We needed them to open their eyes and give them more opportunities and horizons they may not have even thought possible. So blending the two, college prep curriculum in the program of study and the career technical experiences in a course every year during high school, and blending them, like Sarah had mentioned, through the lens, teaching the core classes, the math, social sciences, science, English, through the career lens of that career theme, respective of that pathway. We started with 2 pathways, an Academy of Engineering and Academy of Performance at Harmony Magnet Academy. In fact, Harmony is going to be receiving an award tomorrow here in Washington, D.C. in the advanced CTE as one of the 11 schools top in the nation. We're very proud of the work that they've done with that demographic that I'd mentioned. 90% of the students are going on to college, or at least have a plan. They're not undecided like they used to be 10 years ago. Students, 98% graduation rate, 99% attendance rate, and the teachers are actually coming to school more and choosing to be a part of this educational effort because the discipline is lower. I mean, I could go on and on about the disaggregated data that we have found, pathway versus non-pathway students. 70% of the students that are now enrolled in our high schools in Porterville, and we have 5 high schools. Now we've grown from 2 pathways to 13 pathways that we offer. 70% of all high school students are enrolled in a pathway full-time. Our pathways represent 15 industry sectors that are recognized by the state of California as well as the nation. We're offering students many more opportunities based on that seed of interest, a passion that they might have. If they should choose to pursue that career theme, great success. But if they should choose to change their mind, that's also a success. It saves mom and dad a lot of money, and it moves them into the direction in their path at a much quicker pace. So why do we do the work we do? It's for the students at the core of our work. And our community has changed because a part of it. It has transformed the community of Porterville. Our mayor, the WIB director, the Chamber of Commerce president, the president of our community college, the dean of education at Fresno State, they're all on board. It takes a village of stakeholders to do this work.
Great, thanks so much, Cindy. So Sarah, for employers, employers have always been part of this equation in one way or another through supporting organizations like NAF or serving on advisory boards locally. But you're working with employers as a bank who are trying to solve a real world challenge that they're facing and entering this work as well. And you're making a big investment to try to make a difference. Could you tell us a little bit about what JP Morgan Chase is doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. So JP Morgan Chase has $325 million invested in building better workforce systems and strengthening career-focused education. And when we launched this work about 4 years ago, it really came from kind of two things that we were seeing and hearing in the communities that we serve. And the first was seeing that there were still, while the economy was improving, there were still high levels of unemployment, particularly among young people, and in particular among young people of color. And at the same time, in those same communities, we were also hearing from a lot of the companies that we bank, some of our clients, that they were having trouble filling roles in their firms that they needed, particularly in these kind of middle skill positions. So jobs that require some post-secondary education or training, but not necessarily a bachelor's degree. And they're in all of the sectors that you would expect, that I'm sure you hear from your constituents all the time: manufacturing, healthcare, IT. So what we really wanted to do was figure out, try to build an education and training system that is more closely aligned with labor market demand, so that we didn't have this situation where young people were entering the labor market without really having the kind of skills and credentials that they needed to get good, well-paying jobs. So last year we launched New Skills for Youth, which is our work around getting to this issue of really developing the systems to support these kinds of schools and district work. And this was an initiative where we were going to support states that were looking to transform their career and technical education systems. And this was some work that, we didn't invent it already. There were sort of a handful of states that were kind of working on this, had partnered with the Council of Chief State School Officers, who is working with us to administer this work. And so we put out this competition, put out an RFP. 44 states applied for funding as part of this initiative. We awarded 25 states initial planning grants to develop career readiness action plans. And then just this January, we awarded 10 of those states longer-term implementation grants. So we're going to be working with those states over the next 3 years to really, from the state level, transform their CTE systems. And there are kind of two main goals of that initiative that touch on some of the things that we've been discussing today. And the first is really to increase across the board the number of students in the state that are completing career pathways that start in high school and culminate in some sort of credential that has value in the labor market. So again, this gets to this kind of issue of, this isn't, you're not viewing it in the old way of voc ed as the sort of lesser path for non-college bound students, but really recognizing that research and what we've heard today from the alumni about how having the opportunity to apply what you're learning in the classroom in a more technical or work-based setting actually leads to students having better academic outcomes as well. So it's very much not an either or, but something that all students can benefit from. And the second goal of that initiative is getting to the systems change aspect. So really transforming the design and delivery of career and technical education in those states. So not just kind of taking one model and trying to recreate it and really counting heavily on leadership at particular schools to do things, but actually we're going to be working with these 10 states and some of the other states that are also interested in continuing this work in really developing cross-sector leadership of this initiative. So we have asked states to have on their project team representatives from employers, representatives from the workforce system, from higher ed, in addition to K through 12, so that everyone sort of has ownership over these kind of career pathways. States are going to be looking at, realigning funding streams to support this work, changing policies, changing accountability. So really kind of tough issues, but things that get to that, that really get to that issue of how you create the sort of systems and environment to support the development of more of these. So just wanted to say thank you to the Alliance, thank you to my fellow panelists, and thank you to the Senate CTE Caucus and the staff that made today happen, and for all the work that you're doing to really lead in this space.
Great, thanks so much. I do have more questions, but not if you do. So I want to turn it over to folks who are here for the briefing. If you have questions or pushback, if not, I will launch into a few more. Yes.
It's interesting because when we started this work and we worked in concert with NAF, one of the first things that we did or we looked at were, oh my goodness, how are we going to meet the need or our goal or outcome of every student receiving an internship? And actually it hasn't been very hard to connect with partners, and honestly I don't think even you can call it convincing, but asking them, how can you engage in education? We give them a menu of different ways that they can help and be connected. It could be from serving on an advisory board, which we have 13 connected to each one of our pathways, meeting monthly, giving us the expert advice from a professional vantage point workforce to educators on how do we put instruction and curriculum together. What do you want to see the students to learn or have under their belt before they graduate? To looking at data. There are some partners that really want to dig into that data with us, analyze it, and improve our program. So they are a part of our cycle of improvement for education. There are others that want to be a part of the work-based learning, getting into the classroom, giving job shadow demonstrations, providing feedback to our student panels, providing internships and interviewing skills. And then we have the partners that just want to recruit more partners to help with this effort. And so in a rural community, actually, I now see that we are at an advantage. It's a small knit community. Porterville, as many rural communities, know that we have, it's like a get it done attitude. We have to get it done locally for the future of our economy in that small community. So currently right now we have 700 business partners, and this is 10 years later from starting. It's amazing, and they are spokesperson. I'm not the only one speaking at a board meeting, or carrying this gospel of link learning. It's our partners that are right there beside me. So it takes a village, the stakeholders.
We're also learning to not treat internships mainly as a community relations and social policy play. and from the perspective of the employer, whether it's a private company or a nonprofit or government, to really pay attention to the value proposition for the employer, which has corollary impacts for both the student and the teachers as well. And so, when our teachers struggle and our districts struggle to get enough internships, I can call a meeting of all the employers of my city, the major ones. Meet me at City Hall next Thursday. They will come, and they did come. I said, I need each of you to commit to provide at least 4 internships, depending on your size, maybe more, so that we can guarantee a paid internship for every single student that's in one of these pathways. And they said yes if they're going to be good interns, but we don't know what to do with them. Over and over, and I heard CEOs and HR directors say, I have a 16-year-old at home I don't know what to do with. I don't know what I would do with an intern. I'm a startup company or I'm a big company, and I can't deal with the liability issues. I don't have a payroll system set up for students. I don't have a job description. I don't know what to assign to them. What can they do anyway? I've had a lot of bad experiences with the interns that I've had in the past who happen to be my cousin's daughter-in-law or whatever. And so there's a lot of justifiable, fear may not make the right word, but anxiety about whether this is really much more of a drain than it is a plus. And so it's important for us to pay attention to that in the design of the internships themselves. So many districts are doing externships for teachers. We've been doing that in my own community. The city's been supporting that, where teachers go work at the workplace first for 6 weeks or for 2 months. The teachers are getting exposure to things that they can then bring back to their classroom. It might be a history teacher or a math teacher who didn't have experience in that sector coming back and now has the real world examples and projects to bring back. So the teacher's benefiting in a direct way. But we've asked the teacher at the end of that experience in each case to write the internship job description and essentially a position thing of what the young people can do. All right, now I'm going to step aside for a moment because we've been joined by the Senator Tim Kaine, the founder and co-chair of the Senate CTE Caucus, and he's been such a tremendous leader on this work nationally in the Senate and in raising the profile of career technical education and its potential, embedding it throughout the elementary and secondary education act in ways that we've never ever seen before, marshaling and mobilizing the energy of here in Washington but around the country to make real the promise that we've been talking about. So without further ado, Senator Kaine. Thank you so much. That's tight.
Court.
So let me see here. So good afternoon, and thank you to the panel. Thanks for letting me interrupt. I came up to talk for just a second, but I was giving a speech on the floor about whether there's such a thing as a good shutdown of the federal government. And thought I would then come back because I always really appreciate the chance to come and talk to folks when we have these sessions on CTE best practices. And I appreciate all of you for devoting yourselves to sharing your stories, and all of you staffers who are coming to learn. This is a renaissance. There's a renaissance around career and technical education in this country. It's a bottom-up renaissance. We see it in best practices and cool programs all over the United States. We see it in employers and schools realizing it's incredibly important. And what we have to do is make sure that the policies don't get in the way of the renaissance, but promote the renaissance. Some of you know that I grew up in a household where my dad ran a welding and ironworking shop, and I worked with his fantastic crew. It was a small business. In a bad year, there would be 5 employees. In a good year, there would be 7 or 8, plus my mother and my 2 brothers and me. But I really developed a huge appreciation for the artistry of these ironworkers, that particular profession. Years later, I ran a school in Honduras that taught kids to be welders and carpenters. And then when I was a mayor and governor, I absorbed those lessons and tried to do what I could to expand career and technical education opportunities around Virginia. But I didn't have to push too hard because from the vantage point of governor, I had 134 school districts that maybe after a couple of generations of treating career and technical education as kind of a little bit second best, not the optimal alternative, my school boards and superintendents were waking up to the notion that this is exactly what we need. And so I did good work, but a lot of the work I did was just taking advantage of what I think was the beginning end of a renaissance, and we're seeing it now. I came into the Senate and formed the CTE Caucus together with Rob Portman, Tammy Baldwin, and originally Mike Enzi was the 4th co-chair. And we've tried to do all we could to promote administrative efforts to raise CTE, introduce and pass legislation, either standing alone or as part of the rewrite of No Child Left Behind, for example, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And we're salivating at the opportunity of working on Perkins and the Higher Ed Act, which I hope will work on both of those in the next 2 years, because I think there's so much more we can do around CTE excellence. Today, we introduced a bill called the CTE Excellence and Equity Act with Senators Portman, Baldwin, Capito, and Young, bipartisan group from a lot of different states. One of the real virtues of CTE bills and CTE work is it's about as nonpartisan as you're going to get in this body. People really, really grasp how important it can be locally. This is a bill that would really support funding for innovation in career and technical education programs and help redesign the high school experience to more integrally incorporate CTE into everybody's curriculum, not just kind of a separate curriculum. And it would authorize grants to partnerships if the partnerships are innovative and they put together K-12 systems, higher ed institutions, and employers, and they put together these partnerships. We would offer grants to help make sure that schools are innovative and equip young people with the skills that they'll need to be successful. The bill places an emphasis on teaching workplace skills through job shadowing, internships, and apprenticeships. I don't know if you have this experience. I'm having it more and more where when I talk to employers, they certainly talk to me about the need to get technical talent, but they're also talking to me an awful lot about it's not soft skills, they're really essential skills or life skills, the communication, teamwork, creativity, problem solving, these things that you have to succeed in virtually any workplace today. By emphasizing these kind of work experiences for students, the bill would place an emphasis on teaching those essential workplace skills. And it's all about preparing students for careers of tomorrow. And so this is the bill that we've introduced. But we really look forward to more innovative work, more learning from some of these best practices around the country. I'll tell you one last story and then let you get back to your panel. I had an interesting opportunity almost exactly a year ago. I spoke at a graduation of what is, I think by any measure, one of the premier CTE programs in the country, the Shipbuilding Apprenticeship Program at the Huntington Ingalls Shipyard in Newport News. Started in 1919, so coming up on their centennial. The people who work there go through the standard curriculum is a 3-year curriculum where you're working part-time and making money for it, and you're in school part-time. You finish in 3 years, you have no debt because you've been working along the way, and you have a job immediately that is a very well-paying job. And it's not only a well-paying job, it's sort of a super patriotic job supporting the Navy, and also a super sophisticated job, the manufacturer of the largest and most technologically complex items that are made on the planet Earth, nuclear aircraft carriers and submarines. I told the graduates 2 things about themselves. I said, first, you should be proud because there is a lower admissions rate into this program that you're now graduating from than Harvard. Harvard accepts about 5.9% of applicants. The Newport News shipbuilding program that year accepted about 5.2% of applicants, and 60% of the applicants had some pre-existing college. So super, super exclusive program. That's fact 1. Fact 2, you will be disappointed to know that graduating with the standard 3-year program, the United States does not count you in any of our statistics as having a higher education degree because you're career and technical. Now, you could do an additional year and you could get something from the community college, or there's additional steps you can take where you can get a degree. But the interesting thing is we don't count the graduates of this 3-year program at that point as people who have a higher ed degree for the statistics that we measure the percentage of adults with higher ed degrees. That's because of a lingering second-class attitude about the merits, the virtues of career and technical education. One of the things I'm most excited about in working with you all who are interested in this, if and as we rewrite the Higher Ed Act, making sure we appropriately define what higher education is. Higher education is education after K-12, but it doesn't all have to be community college and college. We want to make sure we celebrate and promote community college, grad programs, professional schools. But I really hope that as we rewrite the Higher Ed Act, we will also hold up and celebrate career and technical education curriculum like the Newport News Apprenticeship Program and so many others, whether it's computer coding or allied health training programs or these, metalworking and trades programs like at the shipyard. So there's a lot of good work to do. The nice thing about it, for all of you who are kind of into this, is if you had been working on this 10 or 15 years ago, I think you would have been kind of pushing uphill, or people weren't that interested in it. Now people are really interested in it. I think now there's a realization that CTE is going to be one of the ways of the future. It's often a path to entrepreneurship, too, for people who go through CTE training are more likely to be starting and running their own businesses rather than working for somebody else. So there is this moment where your interest in this kind of aligns with others' interests, which means that we ought to really be able to make some headway and make it in a bipartisan way. And that isn't to be taken for granted either in a time that's pretty partisan. Finding those things where we can work together across party to do good things is something that we ought to do to show the American public that, hey, this system can still work, especially on something as important as this. So again, to the panelists, thank you, Chris, thank you. And I am moving again to the next thing, but keep it up. And anytime you do these, I'm going to come by at least for 2.5 minutes. So I will look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.
All right, we're going to take one last. Let me just say we have solutions on the internship and work. So the issues around liability and preparation and proper matching. Linked learning students, if you're at a hospital and you want interns, you're better off getting an intern who is in a linked learning program who's already studying health and doing the prior job shadowing and everything else. So we're finding employers prefer and are more open to offering an internship in the first place through this kind of approach. All right, so one more question.
CSU or UC system, yeah. It's a college prep program in the program of study, like I'd mentioned, but also the CTE. So yeah, we do. We don't screen students. They come in at all different levels. The student support that was mentioned and interventions are key, as a key element in order to ensure that the students are successful. And so we have that in place for all the students so that it can be college prep, but also have the skills to have more options past graduation.
Yeah, different forms of linked learning are approaching the college preparatory academics in different ways. In California, we do have this A to G course sequence, and that's one indicator of college readiness. I know up the street from Porterville, there's another set of schools that are delivering an associate degree through dual enrollment to every student who graduates. And so obviously those students, whether or not they've completed the university admission requirement, have already earned a college degree. And so we would consider them to be probably college ready in the same way. So the A to G definition is a useful proxy. It's not the universal definition of what it means to have college preparatory academics, though.
But they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, some of the curriculum that we provide, for example, is ADG approved, right? So it can be done.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, Monica says we can get one more. Did you have a question?
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for the great work you guys are doing. My name is Emmy Weiss, and I'm the college and career specialist for an adult high school here in the district. So I'm that lofty count you're talking about. So my question is, and this is for Cindy, but anyone else particularly who want to answer, you all maybe, how do you cultivate a culture that redefines and reflects this new 21st century, if you will, college and career readiness, CTE? How do you get the district to buy in, employers and everyone, and even council like myself to really buy in this new redefined CTE culture?
I know you said Cindy, but I'm going to ask Jose to take the question first because he's chomping at the bit, and then we'll go to Cindy.
So I'm currently working for McCarthy Holdings, a general contractor, and there's a substantial need in both the labor force and in the office. We self-perform work, so we do go into the apprenticeship programs and we hire people from there. So how do we cultivate an environment where there's a buy-in from everybody? I think it is just communicating and just reaching out. So in San Diego, it's a small construction industry, and I was very fortunate to be able to be in that environment because all the companies are working with the school district and the schools and the university. So you have the university, which was San Diego State, talking to the Associated General Contractors and talking to the high school, and it's one path, and everybody's talking together. So how do you develop that environment is start talking and make a connection so that it's a circular emotion that you're able to create.
All right, Cindy.
Yeah, it's a system of clear communication channels. Yeah, he hit it on the head. Having that communication structure between all the stakeholders, and it's not a matter of how many meetings can we have. It's the quality of the meetings. The purpose. Why are they at the table? Empowering each person, giving them a voice, will give them buy-in, and we can move forward with all the expert advice, and they take ownership of it, and they become champions to create opportunities and change students' lives. Put a student in front of, a link learning student in front of, any champion or a person that's new to link learning, and they can sell the program.
So we're out of time, and I know we didn't get to any questions about, well, what would you do about federal policy? How would you change this or that? So, but the panelists they're not rushing out the door. We don't have a limousine to take them anywhere. So if you have a moment and would like to follow up, all of them are prepared to engage in that question as well. But thank you so much to the staffers and to the Alliance for Excellent Education that helped to organize this quick briefing. Thanks for all the work that you're doing to advance the work that Senator Kane described. Just know that out there in every town and city and place, rural area in the country, that there are people that are pulling with you and are counting on you to get that job done. So thank you so much.